With the second pick in the 2007 NBA Draft, the Seattle Supersonics select Kevin Durant from the University of Texas. With the fourth pick in the 2008 NBA Draft, the Seattle Supersonics select Russell Westbrook from UCLA. With the third pick in the 2009 NBA Draft, the Oklahoma City Thunder select James Harden of Arizona State University.
On the 25th of this month, when the NBA awards are announced, I'm pretty sure it will be official. The OKC Thunder drafted 3 official MVPs in a 3-year span, something that's never been done. I'm pretty sure that's the first, only, and probably last time that will ever happen. This was a team that was actually new given what happened to the Seattle Supersonics. They really had to give a new city a reason to come and watch them, and boy did they ever. In their first year with OKC, with a rookie Russell Westbrook and a second-year KD, they weren't quite able to put it together with 2 unestablished stars. Yeah, they had Jeff Green, who was actually respectable back then. He was averaging 16 points. But other than him and KD and Russ, they really had a bunch of role players, so they really couldn't surge in the hard Western Conference back then. But by KD's 3rd year, they finally had all 3 of their future stars on their team. They didn't quite know their talent yet because they didn't know they were all going to be superstars, but they had all of them on the same team. And by 09-010, they finally showed they can be a serious threat in the West. Kevin Durant elevated his scoring average to 30 in his 3rd season, something that's to me kind of underrated because 30 points in your 3rd season, that's pretty incredible. Russell Westbrook wasn't quite there yet, but he was already surging as one of the more electrifying and high energy players in the league with his dunks and his high energy. He was yelling, so we knew this little dude was going to be a problem. And James Harden, he was still a rookie, and with Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant, 2 high usage rate players on the floor, it was kind of hard for him to find his fitting right there as a rookie, so he didn't see the floor much, so he only averaged like 9 points. But even that, this team, who didn't even sniff their potential yet, won 50 games in the West, and they just couldn't beat a hungry Kobe in the first round. But we knew they were coming. By their next season, which, a fun fact, this was the season where Miami formed their big 3 with LeBron, Wade, and Bosh. This Thunder team won 55 games. James Harden got more playing time, upping his average to 12. Russell Westbrook made his first All-Star, averaging 22 points and 8 assists, and they made the Western Conference Finals, and they just ran into the hottest team in the NBA, the Dallas Mavericks. It was nothing to me that was like disgraceful about that loss. They were young and they just ran into a tough team, but we knew, man, this team is surging. To go from 50 wins to 55 in the Western Conference, this is going to be this is going to be a team to beat in the West for a while. The next season, this team was just right there. This was the lockout season in 2012, and they won 70% of their games. James Harden had the best year to date, averaging 17 points and winning the 6th Man of the Year. KD won his 3rd consecutive, scoring title. Russell Westbrook averaged a career-high 23 points. And in the playoffs, this team essentially avenged all of their losses from years prior, at least in the West. They swept the team that beat them 4-1 last year, the year before, with the Mavericks. And in that series, the Mavericks, they just couldn't stop the big 3, Durant, Harden, and Westbrook. They all accounted for 67 points in the game. I mean, the big 3, they clicked, they got each other, and they were just on that time. And then they met the Lakers, the team that beat them in 2010. They beat them in just 5 games. So they just dominated the West, and they, like I said, they avenged basically all of their losses. And then in the Western Conference Finals, they met the Spurs, fell down 0-2 in that series, and amazingly won the next 4 to push them to the first NBA Finals of all of their careers. Meeting LeBron James in the finals, it just gave the NBA so much parity and so much excitement because a lot of fans, including myself, they said, man, this really concludes who's the best player in the world, like KD, LeBron James, because KD was really right there at that young age. So it was just an excitement time for the NBA. And in game 1 of that NBA Finals, I was extremely nervous as a LeBron supporter because they fell down 0-1 in that series. But then the NBA Finals, the stupid format, I feel like it gave Miami the advantage because they won game 2. And back then for home court, it was 2 games, the first 2 games of your home court and the last 2 games on your home court. And that was completely dumb because the away team, or the team that didn't have home court, they get 3 straight home court games. So basically, after Miami stole it in OKC in game 2, They had 3 games in Miami to close out the series, which to me is not even home court. It's just completely unfair. So yeah, getting back to the point, once OKC lost the home court advantage and Miami took that game 2 and had the next 3 games at home, they just bullied them, man. I mean, LeBron, he was not losing. He just melted down against Dallas. He just wasn't losing. So they lost. But OKC, man, we still said they got so much potential. I mean, think about it like this. KD was only 23. Russell was only 23, and James Harden was 22. Ibaka was 22. Like, they weren't even at their peaks yet. Like, they were barely even able to drink. And I remember that all season, KD and James Harden, I think they went on like Jimmy Fallon, and the Lakers, they had just formed like this super team, like with Pau Gasol, Dwight Howard, Kobe Bryant, Steve Nash, and they asked, or Jimmy Fallon asked KD and Russ how they felt about it, and they were all nonchalant, like, so what, who cares? Like, and it's just so sad because they never played a game together again.
Now, what do you think of Dwight Howard going to the Lakers? You don't care. Look at these guys. Come on, well, that's major. The Lakers are getting a crazy team.
Good for them. Yeah, good for them.
Going into that summer, that was basically like a pay period for James Harden. OKC wanted to extend his contract, but he wanted to be paid like a max player, even though OKC, they probably didn't see him as one yet because he wasn't a James Harden now. He was still a 6-man. And back then, Kevin Durant was on a 5-year, $86 million contract, which was like a max contract back then. Russell Westbrook was like starting a 5-year, $78 million contract. Now keep in mind, this was 6 years ago, so the NBA is drastically different. That was a lot of money back then. The salary cap back then was only $58 million, so it wasn't really a lot of money to just be thrown around. Like, back then it was $58 million as a salary cap. Now it's $99 million, and all the big teams, they paying way over the luxury tax, all these TV deals, endorsements. It's money everywhere. Otto Porter just signed a deal for like 4 years, $106 million, and he's vastly overpaid. So, you know what I'm saying? It wasn't like it is now. And getting back to the point, OKC really couldn't afford 3 max players without potentially letting go of one of their solid pieces like Ibaka. And James Harden really wouldn't take anything less than a max. OKC offered him a 4-year, $55 million deal, which was like the largest from a 6-man ever, but he just wouldn't take it. I guess he thought they lowballed him, so the Rockets offered him 4 years, $80 million, and he took that. I mean, he's a money man, so he took his opportunity. Knowing that they couldn't keep him, and they definitely didn't want to lose a player like that for nothing, the Thunder, they were just basically forced to trade him, and they traded him and a couple other players for Jeremy Lamb, Kevin Martin, and 2 first-round picks. One of the picks turned out to be Steven Adams, so it wasn't all, it wasn't that bad, but losing James Harden, that's just a big blow to anybody. But on the bright side, the next season, the Thunder didn't seem to miss a beat. They won 60 games, and I could argue they should have made the NBA Finals again without Harden, but in the first round, Russell Westbrook suffered a devastating injury in Game 2 against the Rockets, ironically so. He tore his meniscus on a collision with Patrick Beverley, an injury many people thought was dirty on Beverley's part going for the steal. That's a bang-bang play to me, but that kind of happened and that ruined their chances. KD was enough to get them past the Rockets, but once they met Memphis in the next round, they were just overwhelmed. They were just out-talented. But in the next season, OKC still showed to be a legit threat in the Western Conference. KD won his first MVP. He had the speech. That was great. That was beautiful. But man, they just ran into a team on a mission. The Spurs had just handed the Heat a championship the year prior with Ray Allen hitting the shot and all that stuff, and they were determined to win the NBA. Like they were not losing, so they ran into the Spurs and they just took them down to 6. They were not playing. They won the championship. And OKC that year, they just ran into a tough team, a hot team, and a team, like I said, that was on a mission. They wanted to avenge that loss. And the next season to me was just extremely unfortunate. KD had a Jones fracture in his foot, causing him to miss the first 17 games. And that's not an injury to really mess around with. I never had an injury like that, but I know injuries to your feet, they can be very precarious to anyone, especially a 7-footer like KD. You don't want to mess around with your lower extremities. So basically, he tried to come back in December, play a stint, miss 6 more games, tried to play again for a stint, mix some more games, and ultimately he just couldn't go. He had to shut it down for like the last 27 games. He just wasn't healthy and he couldn't mess around with that injury. But surprisingly enough, KD, he wasn't missed too much. In the last 27 games when he was out, Russell Westbrook showed what he can do if he were the man at OKC. He averaged 31 points, 10 assists, 8 rebounds, 2 steals, and most importantly, 24 shots. He tried his hardest to drag this team to the playoffs despite losing KD, whatever. And this was like the first year he showed he could possibly average a triple-double if he was alone. So that was really Russell's real first year of showing what he can do when KD was gone. But as we should know, they missed the playoffs. Russell Westbrook, he was great, but he wasn't enough to get them to the playoffs slightly by New Orleans. I think New Orleans got in with the 8th seed or something like that. They lost to Golden State. But the next season, their final season, the 2015-2016 season, this was the year I was like, man, I'm not sure if this team can ever win the finals. It seems like they always get unlucky. They may have reached their ceiling. They might need James Harden, whatever. And they kind of proved me wrong, but then again, they kind of proved me right. They tried to bring some new energy, a new voice by bringing a proven collegiate coach, at least with Billy Donovan, which clearly KD wasn't fond of. We seen what he tweeted on his burner account by accident about Billy Donovan. But that really didn't work either. But at the same time, this team really did some things that went completely underrated to me. Like, this team ran Tim Duncan out of the gym and pretty much retired him because he was unplayable in that Western Conference semifinals when they ran into the Spurs and defeated them. I mean, that Spurs team, they won 67 games that year, and this was the team that was supposed to beat Golden State. They kind of got overshadowed their 67-win season because Golden State won 73, Kobe retired. It was just a historic year. But that team was very, very respectable and historically great, I guess, but they just couldn't get past OKC. And that's kind of underrated because they really did beat a good team with the Spurs. Then after they beat the Spurs, Russ and KD met Golden State, the year of the Warriors, and most importantly, the year of Stephen Curry. I mean, Stephen Curry, he had one of the greatest MVP seasons I've ever seen. And they got up 3-1, as we all know, and it seemed like they were the team, the kryptonite to Golden State. But in game 5 and 6, KD just had 2 awful games. He went 22 for 62 total in those 2 games. And Russell Westbrook, he may have been worse. He shot 36% from the field in games 5 through 7 and averaged 27 shots in those games as well. They went home, as we know, and this is basically a great summary of what happened. In games 1 through 4, where OKC was up 3-1, KD averaged 21.8 shots and Russ averaged 20 shots. But in the last 3 games where they lost 3 straight, obviously, KD's shots went up to 27 per game and Russell Westbrook's went up to 25. So it was just complete your turn, my turn basketball where it's like they try to do everything by themselves. I don't think these two broke up because they were just a bad fit. Nah, they should have won. Andre Iguodala even said after the year was over, they were the best team in the NBA. He said OKC were the best team. They should have won the NBA championship. I don't think this duo really broke up because they just couldn't fit. I think this duo just didn't have enough time together because of unfortunate injuries. After James Harden left, Russell Westbrook and KD only played 4 more seasons together, and 2 of the seasons were basically done by injuries because Russell Westbrook got injured that year, and as we know, Kevin Durant with the Jones fracture, and they didn't make the playoffs. So it's like things just got in the way. I don't think this duo was just that bad. And to close out the story, as we know, KD's contract was up with OKC in 2016, and he decided to join the Warriors, and that was basically the end of what could have been a great historic duo with Russell Westbrook, James Harden, and Kevin Durant drafting 3 MVPs in a 3-year span. Like, that's almost unheard of. I don't think it's ever happened, and it probably will never happen again. That's the story of how OKC lost 3 MVPs because they're going to be 3 MVPs, 3 Hall of Famers, 3 of the top 10 players in the NBA, and they had them all on the same team, and that's basically what happened and how they all just left. If you guys like the video, make sure you guys like the video. Make sure you guys follow my social media sites. Make sure you guys go in the comments and, let me know how you feel about this big 3 and the separation and all this stuff. And maybe it was a good thing, so just let me know what you think. Like I said, like the video, do all that great stuff. And until next time, guys, stay tuned.